Well, good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. I'm Dr. Matthew Lee, and I'm sorry that I can't be with you there this afternoon in person. I plan to be with the group tonight. I have duties that take me away, which I'll mention in a minute. Thank you especially to Peter Georgeson, the president and CEO of Wells Lutheran for Life, for this invitation. And again, I'm really excited to share some of my experiences with you, celebrate with you, and look forward to the future with you today. A little bit about me. I'm a local OBGYN. I came to Wisconsin from Georgia in 1995 and did my OBGYN training here at St. Joe's Hospital. I've been in practice at St. Joe's since 1999. Served various roles there, associate program director for our residency program, helped teach medical students, helped teach residents. The last 5 years of my practice there, I was the medical director for Women and Family Services for all of Ascension, Wisconsin. Recently, unfortunately, about 2 years ago, an unwelcome diagnosis of Parkinson's showed up. You may notice this hand will shake from time to time during my talk. It prevents me from doing fine surgery and the things that are demanded of an active practice, so I'm no longer in active practice as an OBGYN. I'm full-time faculty, I'm glad to say, at Concordia University just up in Mequon. I teach PA students, that's physician's assistants, PT students, nurse practitioners, and others. I'm still able to work with Wells Lutheran for Life and read ultrasounds and consult clinically and help support life in many ways. Somebody asked recently how long Wells Lutheran for Life and I have been in relationship together. Peter and I sat down and tried to talk about it, and truly we could not remember. It's been that long, at least 15 years or more. So I love that. Been an advocate of supporting life in Milwaukee in many, many ways, not only from Wells Lutheran for Life, other centers, Wisconsin Right to Life, educating students, residents, and mostly working with my patients to support life here in Milwaukee. So your theme tonight is United for Life. United for Life, based on Psalm 133, verse 1, which says, "Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity." That's the ESV. The Evangelical Heritage Version says, "Look how good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in unity." Great translation also. United for Life. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to us today as we talk about it? Let me tell you a few stories about what that means to me in my practice and in my life. First, I'm going to tell you a story about one life, Phoenix. Her mom came to me newly pregnant. Sat down and said, "I'm pregnant." I say what I usually say, which is congratulations. She said, "Hold on a minute. My last baby died at 23 weeks when I had severe preeclampsia. That's a blood pressure issue that takes over and goes up and up and up until it affects baby and can affect mom." And sure enough, Phoenix's mom, the woman in front of me, had a stroke because of this high blood pressure and delivery. She was in the hospital almost 6 months after that. So a very serious issue. She was concerned. She knew this was a risky pregnancy. She was concerned for the baby inside of her. She was also concerned for her. Father of the baby was there as well, concerned for mom's health, concerned for her baby. She was scared and afraid, as many newly pregnant women and families are. She certainly had a reason to be. We talked about what we could do to support her in this pregnancy. We would closely monitor her. We would watch for any elevation in blood pressure or issue with baby. And she was okay with that. She was committed. She was committed to the pregnancy and even willing to put her own life at risk for the baby's life. This went along great till about 20 weeks. 20 weeks, we did an ultrasound. Everything's great. Baby's growing well. Mom's blood pressure is good. Things are going good. But we were worried. So we started seeing her every week. Every week, seeing her, taking her blood pressure, and sure enough, around 23 weeks, blood pressure goes up. We do another ultrasound. Baby hadn't grown at all. In fact, baby was so growth restricted, we were worried baby could die at any point. We admitted her to the hospital right away, treated her blood pressure, which was life-threatening for mom. We gave her steroids so the baby's lungs would mature, and we monitored her continuously. High-risk pregnancy in a great place, St. Joe's Hospital. We see the baby's heartbeat dipping. We were concerned that baby was having a problem. We had her on continuous monitor for several days, treating her blood pressure. Finally, The blood pressure got worse and was uncontrollable with all the medications and treatments we had. Mom was at risk of a stroke. We were just a few days shy of 24 weeks. If we left baby in much longer, baby would likely die. So what's an OB to do at a time like this? Well, first we talked to the family, talked to the mom. We've been talking about this for the whole pregnancy. I talked to partners and colleagues and asked for advice. We asked one of our maternal fetal medicine specialists to do some other tests on baby to give us any sense of how long baby needed to stay in. And it was clear it was time for baby to come out. I walked over to the intensive care unit to let them know they might be receiving a baby that was going to be very small and very sick. Dr. Steve Ragatz, one of my colleagues, was there, staffing the NICU today. We'd be asking him to put in the smallest tubes and IVs in a baby that was very sick. He said his team was ready, and I certainly had trust in Dr. Ragatz as one of the most skilled practitioners we had on the unit. So it was time. We moved mom back for a C-section. Baby certainly could not tolerate labor. Now you would think a baby that small, we would make a small incision. It's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. The smallest, most vulnerable babies, we make the biggest incision so that lifting them out, literally they touch nothing. Their skin won't bruise and tear. They're so vulnerable and susceptible. So we make the largest incision we make and lift baby out. We hand baby off to our neonatal colleagues, Dr. Ragatz, so they can attempt to keep the baby alive. We weren't sure if this baby would make it. She was just a few grams shy of 400 grams. That's 12 ounces. That's the size of a can of soda. To this day, this is still the smallest baby that lived born at St. Joe's Hospital here in Milwaukee. We're glad to say that she was alive. But for several weeks during that time in the intensive care unit, we were unsure if she was going to make it. Now, the NICU is a multidisciplinary area with physicians and nurses and social workers and pharmacists and speech-language pathologists and so many others that were help taking care of baby Phoenix, as mom and dad had named her. Of course, mom and dad were key. They were at the bedside the entire time, her first caregivers. She was in the hospital in the NICU for months. She was finally discharged home after months with oxygen, not knowing if she would ever fully mature. Gladly, about a year later, we were called together for a birthday celebration, and we celebrated Phoenix's first birthday at St. Joe's. She still had a little oxygen on. We had the nurses around, had a birthday cake that she smeared all over herself. So it was just joyous to see her at her first birthday. And about 2 years ago, we celebrated her 10th birthday. She is a very curious, energetic, normal young person, full of life and vigor. We met her in the NICU. She looked around, saw her doctors. Dr. Ragatz was there. I was there. Her nurses were there. Other people who cared for her. She was poking and looking in all the cribs she lived in. It took all of those people that I mentioned, all of those people committed, her family to begin with, but other physicians, nurses, social workers, many physicians, nurses, social workers, language pathologists, etc., to help her. They were all united for her life. That's United for Life. That's a group coming together with one purpose for one person. Think of another story of another group I know of in town that sees pregnant women, and a woman came in and said, I need to have an abortion. And they listened. They were available. They listened non-judgmentally and said, let us help us understand what your struggles are. And she told many struggles. One of her struggles was she had no place to live. She had no place to live. This just broke their hearts. This just broke their hearts as they knew this woman had real issues. And they looked around, they said, we need to meet her issues. We can't just say, well, that's too bad. Did she qualify for this? Did she qualify for that? Go to a shelter. She has no safe place to live. They talked to someone associated with that group. Somebody stepped up, and the next thing you know, they bought a house. And they hired another employee to come be a house mom. And they said, we have a place for you to live while you're pregnant. And while you're there, we can walk with you through this difficult time of relationship turmoil and financial turmoil. And on the other end, she had a baby, which she was so happy to welcome into this world because she had a place to live, and she had support, and she had encouragement, and she had a path forward. Her life was changed because a group of people were united for life together around a purpose for a single life in that sense. Let me tell you one more story about a woman named Rose. Named Rose. That's not her name, but that's what I'll call her. Rose was in an abusive relationship. She had 2 children. She realized she was pregnant, newly pregnant, very early. She was distraught. She didn't know what to do. She talked to a friend. Her friend said, just take the pill and don't worry about it anymore. Now, Rose doesn't actually have a lot of trusted friends to turn to, but when she did turn to some, they gave her the same advice. Go take the pill and get out of your situation. So Rose makes a phone call that she finds to a number on the internet. They ask her a few basic questions. She fills out a form. In the mail, she gets some pills. What does she get in the mail? This is a very common abortion pill industry that's happening. She gets 2 pills. One called mifepristone, which is a progesterone blocker. It blocks the action of progesterone. What is progesterone? Progesterone for life. It's the hormone that your body makes to sustain a baby that's growing. So mifepristone blocks that life-giving hormone. They gave her another pill. Which was prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are some pills you take after the progesterone blocker to contract the uterus, to push out and deliver the dead and dying baby. She takes the first drug, the mifepristone. It starts to hit her what she's doing, what she's involved in. She begins to have second thoughts. She doesn't know what to do. She's not going to turn back to her friends who talked her into this and put her down this path. She goes back to the internet. And somebody has bought and invested in keywords on the internet search engine. When she looks at what can I do after I've taken the abortion pill, it comes up to the Abortion Pill Reversal Network. There's a hotline, but it's 8 o'clock at night, Friday night. She calls. Somebody answers. Somebody is there. It's a nurse at the other end of the line. The nurse looks at their network of volunteer abortion pill reversal doctors who are volunteering throughout the country in every location. She finds one close to Rose and calls that volunteer physician on the phone, and that's me. That happens to be me that time. I was at dinner with my wife and some friends, and I get a phone call. 8 o'clock at night, Friday night. But we stop. They understand what's happening. I go to another room. I talk to Rose for a while, trying to understand her situation, validate her concerns. She's scared and afraid. That's a common refrain, it seems like. She's scared and afraid. She's worried that she's harmed her baby beyond helping. I tell her as best I can that there's no guarantees, but there is medication. We can give progesterone. That progesterone blocking medication we can overcome with higher doses of progesterone that are safe for her and will give her baby a chance. So I call in a prescription to the local pharmacy, and she can go pick it up even that night. We arranged follow-up care with Rose and said, Rose, I'm glad to talk to you over the phone, but I want to see you in person. We want to care for you in person. We want to do an ultrasound as soon as we can to see how things are. So she had started on the progesterone. She had not taken the second drug. She comes to see me several days later. We do an ultrasound, and through tears of joy, she can see her baby still has a heartbeat and still is alive. I was able to be there, cared for her through her pregnancy, and was able to be there at the delivery of her full-term baby. Ecstatic, excited. They were so happy to see this baby that she almost didn't have a chance to see. The people who set up, think about how many people that took. The people who set up the Abortion Pill Network, Reversal Network, that started with a physician out in California named Dr. George Delgado. The nurse who answered the phone and carries it with her 24/7. Most of the days, that's George's wife. There are other nurses, though, who hold the phone, respond immediately when a woman calls, based on the website that they themselves maintain and staff. Think about the network of physicians all over, not just me, many, many others throughout the country who volunteer and say, I'm ready to take that phone call. They reach out in their local area to the woman who's hurting and scared, can provide them reassurance and care, and then care for them through the pregnancy. Whether that ends in miscarriage, they need care. That ends in a baby that's born, they need care. To me, that's what it looks like to be united for life. Many people coming around united for even one life in the case of Rose. Let me tell you one more story. This will be the last one. About being united for life. Jesus tells this story, recorded in the Gospel of Luke, that starts this way. It may be familiar to you. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. So you know this story well, most likely. It's a story of the Good Samaritan. I think many times we focus on the two main characters, right? The one who was robbed, absolutely, and the title character, the Good Samaritan. And he stood up for life. Absolutely he did. But did he stand up alone? Well, some of those who are familiar with the story, you may remember there were others who had passed by and not helped this person in the same situation. Here's this person right in front of them in need. Why did they not help? Certainly there are many things we could talk about. This is not going to be a scriptural analysis. I'll put it in a contemporary context, though. How about that? Maybe those who pass up those in need today think, well, that's just the kind of guy who looks like he kind of deserves it, you know? Maybe they thought, well, if I help him this time, he's just going to get back in the same trouble. What will it help? Maybe they think, I don't want to be involved in something political like crime in my city. I think I'm just going to keep going. Some may think, what can I do? He has so many needs. It's overwhelming. He was robbed. He was beaten. He needs medical care. He needs food. He needs a place to live. How can we respond, myself, to all those needs? Well, what did the Good Samaritan do? What did the Good Samaritan do? First, the Good Samaritan saw the need. He saw that person. He saw that brother or sister who had a need. He saw another's need. Good Samaritan acted. He took action out of compassion. He had an understanding of that person's need. He could see that. He understood his own gifts that he had, perhaps even meager as they were, but he knew he had gifts that could impact the need he saw in front of him. Number 3, sometimes overlooked here in this story, he took him to a trusted partner, the innkeeper. The innkeeper, I think the overlooked character in this story. This is a part of the story we don't think about a lot, I think. I've heard this story many times. You have too. Do we think much about the innkeeper? Why did he take him to the innkeeper? Who is this innkeeper? Why this innkeeper? Had he known him before? Had he done this before? Had he brought someone to the inn? Think of the story. He immediately helped the person in need, took them to the inn, paid for his needs, paid for his food, paid for his lodging, but then left. Why did he leave? He trusted the innkeeper with the money he had given him to take care of him. He even promised to come back and pay when he returned. They were united for life. And in that case, one life. One life. This story, I think, is your story. You're here this afternoon, gathered together in this room because you see the hurting families. You see unborn children. You see a mother's pain. You see another's need. You act with gifts of generosity. Generosity of not only your time, prayer, encouragement, finances, and whatever gifts you have to offer. You're acting, giving back from whatever God has given to you to use for His glory. Third, the reason you're here, you've sought out a trusted partner. You sought out a trusted partner. Wells Lutheran for Life is that partner, that trusted partner. You help bring the vulnerable to the door so that your trusted partner can help bind up the wounds and care for them. What does it look like when you bring them to the inn? What does it look like? What does being united for life look like in this context? It's the dedicated staff and volunteers who work here, who daily talk to women and their families when they have a new diagnosis of pregnancy and are afraid and scared, just like Phoenix's mom was when she talked to me, just like Rose was. They have real concerns and have real pain and have real struggles. The staff and folks here are wonderful, knowledgeable, compassionate, sympathetic. They listen, validate these women's and families' concerns. They provide good, solid counsel with good information and reassurance. That might mean sitting and talking, listening mostly. It may mean giving printed material with information, educational information. It may be giving tangible material items that they are in need of. It might be an ultrasound to show them the humanity of the baby right in front of them. That's what happens in the inn with the good innkeeper. That's what being united for life looks like. The Good Samaritan bringing hurting and fearful people to the innkeeper. In Milwaukee, in our area, in our neighborhood, it starts with you. You who cannot walk by a hurting brother or sister who is in need. And what do? You take them to the innkeeper. Psalm 133 says, "Look how good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in unity." This is how we work together to create unity, wholeness, shalom in our community. It takes all of us being united for life. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person. I'm actually with students at Concordia this afternoon who traveled a long way to be taught. Thank you, Peter, for the invitation, Wells Lutheran for Life. Thank you for my colleagues here and the great work that you do. God bless you all.